Hey, Govcon Giants, your host, Eric Coffie, bringing another episode of the Govcon Giants podcast. Today's guest, Mr. Shane Procer, is the CEO and the founder of FalconTek, a services firm, and also GovBrew, a media company. What's interesting about this particular episode that I want people to pay attention to is Shane started his career doing M&A transactions for a publicly traded company. And through that experience of doing M&A transactions, he and his brother went out in 2016 and purchased a professional services company with 20 employees. Now, today, he has over 225 employees, and they've been in the Inc. 5000 list 3 times. So with the great wealth transfer happening and the baby boomers transferring 30 to 60 trillion dollars of wealth, this is an incredible opportunity for a lot of us small businesses out there to consider acquiring a business as one of our strategies for going into the federal arena. And so we're going to talk about all of that in today's episode of the GovCon Giants podcast. Stay tuned and enjoy.
So tell us about your company, FalconTek. Tell me about some of your background. How'd you get started? Where'd you come from? What were you doing before that?
All right. Well, I'll just go ahead and start from the beginning here.
Yeah, why not?
I was in the Army for some time. Had a good time. Actually joined as a mechanic. Ended up getting into some IT work when I was overseas in Afghanistan, and I liked it. But when I was in Afghanistan and I was supporting that comms unit, went overseas and got really close with a guy who was there. He was there from Northrop, supporting the system that my unit had.
Okay.
And so I started talking with him. I'm like, okay, you're a government contractor. Like, what is that? I had no idea. I thought everybody's supposed to be a soldier over here.
Right.
So that's kind of like where my initial thought was like, all right, I want to get on contract because that guy told me how much he was making overseas. And I said, okay, I'm on the wrong side of the equation here. I'm going to get out,
Absolutely.
use my clearance and get into contracting.
Absolutely.
So I moved to DC when I got out of the Army, specifically to get into government contracting, really looking to get on a contract, maybe potentially go back overseas and just go support a contract somewhere.
Okay.
But what happened is when I was finishing the Army, I also finished my bachelor's degree. So I ended up getting a graduate program at what used to be called Computer Sciences Corporation. It was a huge publicly traded IT system integrator. They did a portion of commercial work and a lot of public sector work. So they had a graduate program going on, and I joined that. So never actually have billed 1 hour on a government contract for myself, even though that was my intention. I got into that graduate program, and I ended up falling into a great spot in what their corporate development program was. And I was doing mergers and acquisitions like right out of the gate. I was grossly underqualified for the role that I
got. I was like, wow, that's pretty impressive.
I knew nothing, honestly. I had just learned what government contracting was like a year prior. But I had an amazing team that I worked under and an amazing boss that taught me a whole lot. And that experience right there, that almost 4 years, really is what started off my career as an entrepreneur in GovCon, because we ran a significant number of transactions in that period of time that I was there, and I was focused on mainly doing the public sector transactions. So we were going out, and I was running deals where Computer Science Corporation would maybe buy a company that used to be a service disabled veteran-owned small business and had grown and had, for whatever reason they wanted to acquire them. And I met all these business owners that were really successful in GovCon, and I was like, oh, okay, I can do this.
That's very, I would like to talk to you about that.
Yeah,
that's the experience that I want to have, that I want to learn, that I don't have. So I would love to find out, where can I gain that experience from?
Yeah. So like I said, I had no business getting that position. I think I just kind of lucked up, right? It was just timing. They had this new graduate program, which was new for that company. And each of the executives, from my understanding, they essentially were like, hey, we're bringing in these graduates. You guys need to use them. I just kind of ended up lucking up there. Now, I mean, there's people who go to, highly sought after business schools whose whole goal is to come out and get in like a mergers and acquisitions spot, right? If you want to work on the higher level where like a publicly traded company.
Okay.
So I don't know. I don't have the answer for you outside of just doing it on your own.
All right.
Small businesses.
I thought you might could walk me in the door or something.
I can introduce you to some people, especially if you live in DC.
All right, I gotta go to DC. All right, I'll meet you in DC. I'll be there.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll be there in January. We're doing an event, and you might want to attend.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing a joint event with HubZone Counseling Teaming Pro, and I'm going to be probably doing like 4 or 5 live podcast sessions. So mid-January, but we could send some dates.
Yeah, let me know.
I think it'd be great. We all meet, everyone meet up, and like because I'm going to invite some other podcast guests that are going to be coming on my show, so we'll be there. Just kind of like, doing our thing.
I'm interested.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Good. All right. Sorry to interrupt, but go ahead.
Yeah, I think, really what I was saying is I took that was like a master class in government contracting strategy, right? Because all I was doing every day was talking to business owners or working deals that were like going through companies that were small businesses or even medium businesses in the GovCon space, and just all day, every day. So I learned a lot, and then that's where I learned about set-asides. And the company that I worked at, CSC, had acquired some small businesses that successfully, grew. And I was like, okay, small business set-asides, these owners, they're nobody special, I can do it. So at that point, about almost 4 years in, I acquired a small SDVOSB, which sounds really easy when you say it like that, but it's, I say we back up a little bit. I have an older brother 6 years older than me. And he went the professional route. I was in the military. He did pretty well for himself in the industry he was in. So I started telling him about this. Hey, we should do this. And we went on about a 7 to 8 month process of trying to find a small company to acquire to get our start in government contracting.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah. So when we acquired that company, it was about 20 FTEs. That was in early 2016.
20? How many? 20 FTEs?
Yeah, 20 FTEs.
Okay.
Supporting various types of work, from facility support to administrative support. That company started in 2008. It had some very small prime contracts. It already had an SDVOSB certification, and it was on some subcontracts. So at that point, I was like, okay, good. We got a story. Like, we can get started here.
Right.
To kind of cut to the end, we've since grown that. Like, at the end of this year, we'll be around 225 FTEs.
225?
Yeah.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. And
Congratulations.
a lot of that growth, honestly, has come in the past year or two. We've kind of really amped up our efforts on going after more prime contracting. So there's a lot in between. I don't want to completely take over this whole call and spend an hour going down that road.
That's okay. I think that's what people want to hear,
Yeah. Yeah.
Look, going from 20 FTEs to 225 is a story in itself.
Yeah. Well, how about this? I'll tell you, because there's another component, and then we can go back and we can maybe get into some of the things that happen along the way from that 20 to 225.
Okay.
But along the way, we also kind of started another thing, which is GovBrew. And that kind of was started out of what I would call selling the sawdust, right? Like, we do it from the beginning of my time when I was at CSC. I didn't know anything about the GovCon market. So I would spend endless amount of time reading media, reading white papers, reading what government RFPs, whatever I could find, just to get knowledge. And I kept that going throughout when I started a business. So I was informed on what was going in the market. When I'm talking with potential partners, I add value, right? So I've always done that. And it usually was by way of going to 15 different websites every morning, just trying to pick up on different news stories. So almost 2 years ago now, we started GovBrew, which essentially is a media company focused on GovCon. That's like a newsletter first company, and consolidates industry news and kind of delivers it to individuals in a entertaining and educational way.
Sure. I've seen some of the articles. It's really good because I saw some like acquisition stuff that, like you said, would be really difficult for someone to find. So it seems like you've got curated GovCon news, which would be probably a great way to describe it.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Because, sometimes when we're out here looking for information, and I know because I'm obviously with what I've done, there's like 20 sources that you got to go through to find the one thing that's really valuable.
Right.
And so I would describe it as curated GovCon news. And like I said, I did have a chance to look at it, something that was shared, and it talked about some acquisition stuff that I found very useful and of interest to me. So that was pretty neat. I liked it.
Yeah, and that's where it's curated news, and it covers, what we think are some of the top stories in civilian world, defense world, intelligence world, and then it goes over various other things like mergers and acquisitions, and different policies and opportunities and contract vehicles that are out there.
You said civilian, defense, and
intelligence community.
Okay, intelligence community. Okay, I'm just taking notes.
Oh yeah.
Don't mind me. I'm taking notes. All right. So you started GovBrew was your basically your brainchild. You were doing all this research, and you said, look, I should share this with people. So
yeah, we started that out. We shared it with some friends and some clients we were working with and internally, and we got a lot of great reviews. And since then, we started to share it with the world, and we have a referral program where you get swag if you share it with certain people, and that's actually worked out well. And we're over 10,000 subscribers. We send it out, 3 days a week, and a really engaged community and with content. So it's exciting.
Nice. I love it. Yeah. Someone else sent me something from you guys recently. It's one of my podcast guests shared with me something that you had done before. So I could say it works. Someone shared it to me.
Well, no, we actually had you on what's one of your favorite GovCon podcasts.
Okay. Maybe that's what it was.
I crossed you guys off of Instagram because I was on Instagram and I'm just randomly, I was like, I wonder if anybody talks about GovCon on here. I went and searched hashtag GovCon. And then I saw you all, which, by the way, kudos to your son for his editing abilities, because I see some of the TikTok stuff that you guys do.
Yeah, you see that? That's right. It's pretty cool, right? Yeah. That's good. Yeah. No, he doesn't edit anymore, but yes, he originally was the editor. Now he has a team.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he actually has a team of 9.
Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah, because we remember our original content starts on YouTube.
Yeah.
And so I'll make an 1.5-hour video on YouTube. We'll then take that video, cut up into 3 snippets. And then those 3 snippets, we cut into 3 reels a piece. And so,
that sounds like some Gary Vaynerchuk.
That's right. It's Gary. Yeah. Kind of same stuff Gary V does.
Yeah.
So how do you repurpose all that content? So he's got 2 video editors. I don't even know all the people, but video editors, 3 graphic designers. He's got posting people because we have a person that just posts content all day. That's it. Their full-time job is to post. That's it. So he's got we call it a posting girl. That's what we call her. We don't have official title. We call it posting girl because she just posts content. And then we have a reels editor just for reels. We have one whole person. That's all they do is create reels. And then we have a video optimize our content for YouTube. And then he has a person that creates, because YouTube now allows you to create chapters. Mm-hmm. He's got a person that does goes and watch my video and turns it into chapters. Which, by the way, that's very useful. I use those chapters a lot. Yeah. See? Yeah. So I'm glad YouTube came up with that feature that allows us to do it. However, because it's a new feature, now we got to go back and do all our old videos. Oh yeah. So if you're like me and you have 700 videos on YouTube, you got to go back and so it's a lot of work. So outside of this interview, we should maybe connect on. I'm very interested to learn how you kind of set up that content machine because Okay, we can talk about that. Yeah, but so thank you for that. I just kind of was going into it. Yeah, it's just explaining. Yeah, we've it's been a journey. It's been a journey. Let's schedule a follow-up. Okay, but we can do that. What I was saying is you had mentioned we have surveys weekly. This is a new thing that we're doing at GovBrew.
and, various things. I listen to a lot of podcasts. So one of the ones we did was, what's your favorite GovCon podcast? I think you guys scored pretty high. I don't have it in front of me, but you were definitely, there's a ton out there that are GovCon related. There's only a few that we pulled in that we felt were actual value adds.
Yeah, I think, and that might have been what she sent me, because she said that you guys had a different audience than my audience, which she thought was great, that we ranked high even with a different audience.
Yeah.
So, which is kind of cool. I like it.
That's very cool.
Yeah, I like it. So thank you. Well, I guess you didn't do it, but thanks for doing a survey that basically, show people what we're up to. So you start govbrew.co. You're curating the information. Has that helped you in any way grow your business?
So I think it helps, obviously, as you know, it helps create relationships, right? So as you said, our audience may be a little bit different. We really target growth roles like BD capture folks at mid-size, large, even small business, GovCon entrepreneurs, but folks that are like in it and have been in it for a while. And, so those individuals are the same folks at FalconTek that we need to meet with to talk about teaming opportunities and things like that. And just to be fully transparent, I really haven't leveraged it to, I think, how much we could. I've just now started getting to the point where I've put myself out there as kind of the, one of the two behind GovBrew, right? That's helped create relationships.
Got you. Okay. Yeah. It's funny that you say that, because I'm actually trying to pull back from being the face. I'm like, hey, can I put somebody else's face up front? Right. So be careful what you wish for, is what I will warn you about. You know, so it's like, hey, will someone else step up to the plate and be the face? Because people think it's all me. And I'm like, yes, I get all the credit, but my executive team is 6. The marketing team is 9. I'm like, hey, that's 15 people that you just see my big head, shiny head, like on the screen, but like, there's a lot of people pushing this to make it work. I just get the fun job was to talk to people like you and interview them and find out about their stories. So, I think I get the coolest job, but I definitely don't want to be like the only guy anymore that's like running this operation. Yeah.
Note taken.
Just warning you. So, all right. So now you've got GovBrew going. You're growing FalconTek. I love that you bought the company. And no, this is actually a good story, man, because it's like, hey, I'm not supposed to be here in this M&A world, but I am in this world. And okay, now I'm learning it. And so it seems like a whole lot of sequence of events kind of fell into place for you.
Yeah, I'd say so. And it's funny, I was just talking to a buddy about this yesterday, about honestly just getting out there and taking shots where you have kind of no business being. Like when we started, going down the road of talking with companies that were for sale and talking, with other business owners. I was a lot younger than most of those individuals and had a lot less experience. I had 3 years experience in GovCon at that time.
Sure.
But I was, not afraid to swing out of my weight class and start talking with folks. And I think that really helped out a lot, and just really getting out there and taking those shots.
I love it. I can
talk a little bit about the process of acquiring, or I can talk about the process of growing FalconTek.
I think that, personally, I'd be interested in the process of acquiring it. But I think the audience would be interested in growing it. But I think let's talk about acquiring it, because I think, we've got about 30 minutes left. So, let's talk about the acquiring process, because it goes to what you were saying about taking shots. I think a lot of people are afraid to take a shot. So let's talk about let's take a step back mentally. What made you believe like, hey, I could take these shots, right? What was that thought process?
So I did have a little bit of unfair advantage with going into that corporate development team at what was Computer Sciences Corporation, right? And I noticed, okay, here's something that I know that I can do, because I've met a lot of individuals and I know who they are, and there's nothing special, about what they're bringing to the table compared to what I have. So that's one, just maybe exposure and putting yourself out there and talking with individuals.
So let's I want, just for everyone listening in the audience, he said that seeing people who were doing what you want to do, right, and realizing that they weren't doing anything incredibly more special than you were doing or are capable of doing, right? So that gave you confidence. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
If I wouldn't have been in the position where I was talking with those individuals, because before that, I come from a very blue collar family. You know, my dad worked at a warehouse his whole life, and pretty much it's like, hey, get a job with a good company. Like that was my mindset, right?
Sure. Sure.
But once you open your eyes up and start talking with folks, it kind of opens your mind up. So, yeah, I guess I'm losing what the question was.
You were saying no. We were just going through the process of how they did the acquisition. So I was just reiterating. Yep. So you said you saw people do it, and you're like, okay, this is easy. I can do this stuff.
Right. Yeah. And then at the same time, I mean, we really didn't have the finances to be talking to those people either. But I also knew through, you know, talking with other individuals who went out on their own or started companies that the SBA, if you're especially if you're a service-able veteran, has some programs that will help you out, right? So I started doing all the research on that. I called the SBA, I talked to them, I figured out everything I needed to. I spent a ridiculous amount of time just trying to get the information that I needed. That way, when I came to the table to talk with folks, I sounded educated about how we would make the deal happen.
Sure.
So really, it just came down to, you know, the research behind that and taking those shots and talking with companies that at the time, you know, maybe I was overconfident, but we really didn't. We weren't. If you look at what you think should happen, we weren't a viable buyer for them. It was two brothers. One of them had a few years of GovCon experience, and the other one had a little bit of money, right? But we said, all right, let's just do it. We had a lot of conversations. Some people said, no, thanks. Like, I don't think you're a good home. But there was say like 3 to 4 of those individuals that we got to final negotiating table with, and you know, actually finally made one successful through it. In the process, to get to the point of having those 3 to 4 companies that we got to the negotiating table with, really that's just comes back again to research and talking to folks. There's a bunch of websites online that will help you find companies that are for sale. So you got to spend a bunch of time trying to find companies that do government contracting work. Then you find the brokers that are typically selling those companies. I would start to develop a relationship with them. Say, hey, I'm a service-able veteran. I'm looking at acquiring a company. Anything you have that has a veteran certification or service-able veteran certification that does work in the federal government, call me, send me the information. You know, let's do it. So that's how we started to kind of get deals coming our way, on top of you know, going out and trying to seek them out ourselves.
Did you pick a certain market or industry, a sector?
I left it wide open. Well, no, I take that back. We didn't go, and you won't like to hear this, but we didn't go the construction route. I was a little bit concerned about.
I don't care. Listen, look, construction is high risk. Why would anybody want to go construction?
I knew nothing about it. So I was like, all right, I'm going to take on this whole new thing. The last thing I need to do is go in a whole new industry as well.
Right. Okay. So you said everything except construction.
Yeah. So it's pretty much, you know, we looked at IT services, and honestly, I think the deal value was a little off there for us. Like, you really had to come with a significant price to get some of these higher end IT services companies. And then we looked at professional services or advisory and assistant services, right? Just individuals that are out providing like program management support, clerical support, financial support, things like that, right? You know, the back office operations of different agencies. And we ended up finding one that honestly was kind of mixed bag of different things that they were doing at the time.
Okay. Nice. And so how did you know what was the right price to offer?
Well, I was involved in GovCon M&A.
So from that,
yeah, because I was looking at deals all day long with the company that I was working for.
Okay.
Now, it's a little bit different world at the size that we were doing it in small business.
Right.
So honestly, I didn't know. I took what I knew based off of the higher end deals that we were doing, and then
applied it,
levered the value down a little bit, honestly, because it's a small business and there's more risk. You got less revenue, less contracts. So if something happens to one of those revenue or contracts, then, obviously you're in a higher risk scenario because you don't have revenue from other places.
And what role did your brother play in this?
So he was still working when we initially acquired the company with what he was doing. So his background is he played baseball. He played for a college, went to the minor leagues, and then got out and he did medical device sales.
Okay.
And he sold into some government customers, so he knew a little bit about it. But so he was still working, and he was there as like a strategic partner and a financial partner, really. So we talk every day. We have a good relationship anyway. So our conversations just turned into talking about business every day and these different deal processes that we were going through.
Nice. That's great.
Yeah.
That's good. All right. And so then, you do all your due diligence and, you got the deal done.
Yeah. You go through the diligence. If you're comfortable with what you see in there and all the questions and all the answers that came through, you put the final offer in, and then they say, okay, let's go to town. And then that's where the real work starts, because you got to get the financing squared away. At that point, we were kind of like pre-approved of, hey, if you bring this to the table and it's around this value, then we can probably get something done for you.
Sure.
But you got to go through and make the business case to the bank, to the SBA, and all that to get the financing done.
How long was that process?
So we actually went with a bank, the First Citizens Bank, who does a ton of SBA loans. So they have a really smooth process. So I don't recall exactly, but I want to say that it was probably 3 to 5 months, somewhere in that time range.
Okay.
To actually get to the closing table and get the loan processed and get everything they needed.
Nice.
Because it is an SBA loan,
right.
As you know, with government contracts, there's a significant amount of paperwork that you end up needing to do. So.
Yeah. No. Okay. All right. Well, 3 to 5 months is not terrible.
Yeah, I've heard like up to a year.
Yeah, I've heard up to a year as well. Yeah. Right. That's what I was thinking. More like a year. So, I mean, that's pretty much expedited. It's almost like a house loan.
Well, honestly, one like little side pro tip here, there's certain banks that, and maybe I can follow up with you on what the name of it is, but they essentially have authority from the SBA because they do so many loans with them to approve it, and you don't have to wait on the SBA office to approve.
Yeah. Okay.
So one of them, like the one we went with, is First Citizens Bank, and I know that they have the ability to do that. And then they put you through a really stringent process with their SBA processing team, and then when they approve you, that's essentially approved by the SBA. And I might not be saying exactly all the right terminology around that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. So he's saying, don't quote him and go hold. And go say, you told me this, Shane said,
This is not financial advice.
Right. Exactly. It's not financial advice. Full disclosure. Okay. Nice. All right. So now you bought the company. And I'm sure you're probably like, okay, great. Now time to go. It's
funny. Just because I was dealing with so many small businesses at that time, and you get in the habit of learning these small businesses, how they grew, what they did. And when you're thinking about everything high level, you're like, okay, that makes sense. I can do that. Like that's too easy. And then once you get out of that strategic high level, more just like looking at what's going on and in the operator's chair, then it's a different ballgame. Because it's easy to think about that and it's easy to lay the strategy out, but what about who's processing payroll tomorrow? How are we paying, state taxes? Who's talking to the client when the issue happens on site? And now you got all this other stuff that takes away from the, from the strategy.
Yeah, from your strategic plan.
Yeah.
Right. No. So how long before your brother decided to come on board?
He's only been on board with us for about a year now. So
okay.
He continued to work for the first close to 5 years.
Okay. All right.
And that was Well, hindsight being 2020, there's one thing that I would have done different. I would have acquired a larger company that had more free cash flow. Because if you're going to do it, like we went the route where, there's a little bit of risk, right? Like we were willing to take a risk. We took a loan out, although with government contracting, your risk is not really capped, but if you're buying contracts that have backlog and it's services contracts, you can kind of not guarantee, but you can kind of bet on the fact that those will keep going.
Okay.
So if you're going to take a risk, and since I've learned at the end of the day, if you're buying a company with debt, why wouldn't you just go up a little higher to where you had more free cash flow? Because it's all about the plan that's going to go in place that first 3 years after you buy the business, and to be able to execute on a strategic plan. You could do that a lot better if you have more free cash flow, because you can bring more people to the table to execute on that.
Gotcha. Okay, that's it. I like that. I got that down. So now, so you grow the business. Your brother comes on full time, like I said, about a year ago to join you guys. So what's next?
Well, we actually, so when we initially acquired the company, like I told you, there were some small government contracts, and we continue to win some of those smaller ones where it's like few folks supporting a small office somewhere in an agency somewhere. And over the past 6 years, we continue to grow that, continue to win a little bit larger prime contracts. But for a long period of time, say from year 2 to year, 4.5 or so, we started focusing on subcontracting and just trying to bring personnel, because I have a background in like IT staffing, or not background, a family background. All my in-laws have been in staffing and IT staffing for a long time. So I implemented some of the approaches that they took in some of their businesses to government contracting. So pretty much I was like, I can put out proposals and sit around and wait on them. But with us being so small, I need to be every single day trying to close more business that can bring us more revenue.
Right.
And that's where coming in for a long time, we were just coming in as a staffing partner and saying, hey, what positions do you have? We can close them. We'll do direct placements. We'll do temp to perm, or we would like to do long-term subcontracting.
Okay.
So we got into a lot of different types of work there for a long period of time, just saying, hey, we can bring personnel to the table. But one thing that I wouldn't change at all, because we built up a delivery team probably well before we should have, and we didn't go the route where we just hire a big name BD guy that has some relationships and hope that we are able to close a contract.
Sure.
So now that we're at the place where we're starting to win prime contracts and we're getting on more subcontracts and teaming arrangements, as a small business, we have a delivery team that kind of outsizes us in terms of being able to bring personnel to the table across various types of projects.
Okay.
And that's because we put a focus on it early on.
Sure.
So we went through that period where we focused a lot on subcontracting, and just bringing personnel to different projects. And over the past 18 months, we start to put more of a focus on transitioning that work into more prime contracts, so larger prime contracts, really piggybacking off the capabilities that we've developed and past performance that we've developed, subcontracting to some of these other firms.
Nice. I like it. No, that's nice. That's very exciting to hear. When you talk about delivery team, can you break down what does that look like for people out here who are listening? That BD, capture, proposal writer, let's just.
Yeah, well, to clarify though, the BD and capture stuff is something that we're just now putting in place outside of myself and some other folks in our executive team. We're essentially the BD and capture guys at this point, right?
Gotcha.
We have some account managers that support certain things, but that's the delivery team that I'm talking about is like sourcers and recruiters that are out. Trying to get a hold of the folks.
Right, that you need to be able to execute. Right. Okay.
On top of like the project coordinators, project managers that are interacting with our clients, whether it be a prime contract or a larger subcontract that we have.
Nice.
So yeah, really that's kind of the focus that we've had, is we can out deliver many other small SDVOSBs on bringing personnel to the table.
Gotcha. Okay. No, that's nice. That's nice. Wow. So what is your plan for the next, say 2 years out? What do you guys think you're going to be at?
So 2 to 5 years, we're going to have a lot more larger prime contracts. We actually just won our largest prime contract a week ago, which we're very excited about.
Excellent.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
$3 million single award BPA at the VA.
Okay.
Nice. So the next 2 to 5 years, we're going to focus on taking that work, taking some other prime work that we have, and some of the capabilities that we have, and going after more prime contracts. And in 2 to 5 years, we're going to be much larger than what we are. We'll finish this year. Well, I'll just say, when we bought the business, it barely did a million in revenue, and next year we'll cross 15 million.
There you go. Nice. Congratulations. Congratulations. That's a good story, man. I love it.
Yeah.
That's a good story. That's a good story. So let's change it up, for our last, moments together. So tell me, along the way, what kind of things were you doing that helped you out? I know you said you did a lot of research, but was there any, you said you were new to GovCon. Was there any material that stood out that really helped you along the way in terms of whether it was strategy or plans? I know you said obviously being in the room with those guys helped you with the M&A side, but what about knowing what to do on the government contract side? Was there books? Was it, what tools or resources that you use to help you along the way?
Yeah, I mean, I've read so many books just because I was honestly trying to consume any content I could, whether that came by way of a blog post or a book. So one thing I will say is just being present and showing up and being in the room is a big deal, whether that room's a virtual Zoom office or a meeting or a mastermind or a breakfast, where you know that there's going to be some flavor, if you're trying to get into government contracting, because the relationships you develop with going to stuff like that is really where you're going to get the advantage. I think you can learn as much as you want, you can read as much as you want, but if you don't start creating the relationships with other individuals in government contracting, it's going to be a much slower pace for you.
Right. People often ask me, how do you know where to go? How do you know which rooms to be in? There's so many choices. Like we and I said at the beginning, you can spend your whole life attending events. How do you pick? How do you pick when it's time to do work and it's time to go to the next event?
Yeah. That's a difficult one. Because from my point of view, one relationship could change your life, honestly. And
right.
What if that relationship's at one of the most pointless conferences that you ended up attending,
No,
but
that's true.
But you can't do them all, right? So I would just say there's an endless amount of events, but I would niche down. Like if you're going to do construction, or if you're going to do cybersecurity, or if you're going to do professional services, I would start with Google and go in and find, events for government contracting professional services. And then you'll probably find something like the Professional Services Council, who puts on a ton of events that support like professional service individuals. And then go to their events, and you'll start to learn as you go on which ones you should go to, which ones you shouldn't. But if you have a niche, then I would just niche down on how you're looking at events and go to those. And they're not all going to be good. And some of them you're going to leave and you're going to be like, wow, I can't believe I flew out here for this.
Yeah.
But they're necessary.
I agree. I had a friend of mine, he spoke at a conference, and he said he was in a breakout session. And when he spoke, there was like 3 people in the room. But one of the persons in the room turned out to be like a publisher for like a national, like like New York Times or something like that. And so she ended up picking up his story. It was like, because he delivered the message, right? And so she ended up picking up a story. She was there to cover, he's in the food industry. And he was writing a book about, actually, he was writing a book on ghost kitchens. This was like 7 or 8 years ago. And so no one knew what a ghost kitchen was. And he wrote a book talking about, and I guess he had studied the market and knew that there's all this unused kitchen space. He was doing food delivery before there was a Uber Eats, and he was doing like healthy meals. He used to deliver to people's offices. Yeah. And so he said, I remember he said he spoke at a conference in a breakout session. He goes, there were 3 people in the room. He says, I was on a panel of 3. So that mean we equaled the audience. Right. He says, but one of the persons in the room was a writer from like a national press. And so she picked him up, and, you know, his book ended up being a bestseller as a result.
Yeah. And honestly, that's really kind of the crux of it all. I mean, my life has happened because it's just a series of me being like, all right, yeah, I'll do it. I'll try it out. Like, put me in, let me try it out. Let's see what happens. And one thing leads to another, really, you know? Right.
No, that's great. And I mean, in the beginning, you said, you know, again, like, hey, you're not afraid to put yourself out there. So,
yeah.
Tell me, you know, what's the happiest purchase you've made recently off Amazon?
The what?
One of the happiest purchases you've made recently off Amazon.
Oh, man. I got one. I'm having a low country boil this weekend, so I just bought some Zatarain's crab boil.
There you go.
Which is extremely hard to find in like your local supermarket. Like, I went to 3 of them and couldn't find it.
There you go. That's right. Country bowl this weekend. That's funny. I like that. That's good. That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one. What's something that's hard in the business that when you first started was hard and that's still hard today?
So one thing that's, I think, will remain the most difficult thing as a small business in the service industry, is just managing cash flow. You know, when you're growing, our whole growth, like that big contract that we won, we're going to add 100 employees, and we got to fund all of their payroll and everything, right, while we're waiting to be able to bill the customer, and then we got to wait on the payments. And as a small bit, I mean, as a large business, it's just like, okay, you got it all under wraps and you got money all over the place. As a small business, you know, when you're in a growth mode, the cash is going everywhere. So being able to manage that and successfully grow without, without kind of messing up your cash flow, it has always been kind of the most difficult part of the business, in my opinion.
Okay. Yeah. I can imagine. So, what's something in the business that you disliked or hated that you still hate or dislike?
Oh man, come on now. Can I say? Can we do a duplicate answer here? Because it would be that.
Okay.
Here, I'll say this. Hate's a strong word.
Hate's a very strong. That's why I said dislike. You can say dislike. You know, hate's a strong word.
As we all know here, a necessary evil in government contracting is proposal development, and there's some very strict requirements around large personnel effort proposals, right? And so the technical compliance and the requirements around the proposals and being able to bring all that together, I think, is one of the, I'll just say, necessary evils that.
There you go. All right, a necessary evil. I like it. I like it. A necessary evil. What about something that, you know, an odd place that you've worked in the past that no one would ever guess?
All right.
I gotta get some rapid fire questions, man. You know?
Yeah.
You know?
I like them. So for a period of time before I joined the Army, I moved antique furniture from state to state. So our hub was in Atlanta. There's a big antique show there every month, and we'd pick up routes either going up north, like up to New York, or out west over to Texas or California, and we'd take anywhere from 5 to 12 day road trips, just two guys in a truck delivering antique furniture.
Antique furniture is that big of a deal?
Yes. And
I didn't know that. I didn't know.
I didn't either until we started going to these shows and saw some of these price tags. Yeah, there's some very expensive antique furniture out there, and not just anybody can move it because it's very delicate, obviously. So a mutual friend that I have, and now lifelong friend, owned an antique moving business because his dad owned an antique shop. And so that's how I ended up getting into that.
Oh, wow. How long did you do that?
I did that for, I don't know, like a year and a half or so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's pretty cool. You said 12-day trips, huh?
Yeah. Yep. And I mean, it was fun, honestly.
I was going to say, it had to be fun to go across,
Yeah. And, we would, depending on where we're going, because you got deliveries every day, and maybe you might do your last delivery right outside New Orleans. So you can stay there for the night.
There you go. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. That's how you make a trip worth it.
Right.
Yeah. That's good. I like that. That's, if you weren't doing this, what do you think you'd be doing?
That's a tough one. I don't know. I likely would be a business owner or, going towards trying to start my own thing up, doing something else, whether that's, I have a love for cars. I've worked on cars my whole life.
Okay.
I work mainly antique cars. So probably something more related to the car industry, doing something there.
Okay. Nice. No, I mean, that's great. I love cars. I don't know how to work on them. But I do appreciate classic cars. So yeah, I do have appreciation for them. What do you have?
1971 Monte Carlo right now.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. I actually went to school. I had oh my goodness. Well, when I was going to school, I had a Caprice Classic, 82. 82. But before that, I had a oh my gosh, I had a 78 Delta 88.
Oh, dang, that's a big car right there.
Big car. So I've always been paying high gas prices. Okay. Yeah. I drove that in college. Nice. The Delta 88, 1978 Delta 88, brother. It was the full couch seats.
Oh yeah. I had
super, I mean, it floated. It floats, man. That thing is super comfy. It floats.
Yeah, so. I love those old big cars. I had a 65 Impala before.
Nice.
Or no, the 66. And then I had a few different Caprices. I mean, I grew up around Atlanta. So
yeah, there you go. Yeah. No, my it's funny because my Chevy it was actually my mother's car. It was my mom's, and so it's funny because people thought it was like my car, and it wasn't. It was actually my mom's car, and so people kept trying to steal it. So they kept trying to steal it. So
yeah, I love those old big cars.
Yeah. No, I felt safe in them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. If you hit something with that, it's going through.
Didn't matter. It's still. So listen, why don't we go ahead and close up? Tell people some words of wisdom and impart some of your experience on them, and let's close them out for today.
Okay. Yeah. Let me just stream a thought here.
Stream a thought, man. Yeah. Why not? Yeah. Leave people with something to think of on.
Kind of, I guess the theme we've been talking about here is just take the shots, show up in the rooms and swing for the fences. Even when you don't feel like you really should be, I say, take the risk, take the opportunity to put yourself out there, because you never know who you'll meet. You never know what you'll learn. And those little pieces add up into ultimately what will bring you to success in life and also in government contracting. And if you want to reach me, you can go to govbrew.co, sign up for the free newsletter. If you have interest on the government contracting side, on teaming and partnering, or if you just like to pick my brain, I enjoy talking with other individuals, you can contact me at FalconTek. That's Shane at FalconTek.com.
And we'll have all that information on our website, linked to this page as well in the podcast notes. So Shane,
Okay.
man, no, this is good stuff, brother. I love it. I had a good time. I learned about you. And like I said, I was fortunate that someone had sent me your stuff earlier on. So I did have some awareness of you guys. So that was good.
Yeah. Well, thanks. It's a pleasure to be on because I've listened to your podcast for a while. Like I said, I found you on
Instagram. That's that's very rare, right? That's very rare. You found me on Instagram. Most people find me on YouTube.
Yeah.
So for you to find me on Instagram was pretty rare. So hey, listen, thanks. Definitely we'll circle back around and connect to set up a separate call, not related to this afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
All right, buddy. Thank you, Shane.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Have a good day.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.